as we saw this morning, our young people are in the process of figuring out how to live and work. This is kids early. In a brand new context and work. They're figuring it out themselves before they even start to get to us. And we are what I call now the last pre-internet generation. We grew up when there was no internet. That's Al Gore, by the way, who says he invented the internet. We all know about that. But look at, he's in the middle. He's got the screens, but he's got the books and the papers. I call it TLPIG, the last pre-internet generation. And it's coming up against the first internet generation, who also happened to be, and this is really interesting, the first global generation. Because no matter where you go, no matter what country you go, the kids are the same. They are using the same devices. They are thinking the same things. And even Time magazine recognized this last year when they said this: millennials worldwide are more similar to one another than to older generations within their nations. So your kids here are more similar to kids in Abu Dhabi or Malaysia than they are to you in many ways. And that is a hugely new phenomenon in the world. And the problem often comes when we, the last pre-internet generation, bring tons of the baggage that were laid on our shoulders, that we have, our ideas and our beliefs, and the applause that we just got from the back of the room from previous times. And we too often just load that on the shoulders of our kids and students who live in a different time. So, for example, is this bad? A lot of you would say yes. Of course you would. But maybe, just maybe, for their generation, it's the future. And the best party ever. Right? So don't be too quick to judge and put your pre-internet interpretations on the generation of the internet. Our kids see in front of them advances in science, in technology, in engineering, in math, in social science, and in humanities, and in the arts. Huge advances are taking place in all of those, and they're almost all a result of adding new technology. And unlike in the past, when technology was used by older people, the young people are close to it from birth. So they're really comfortable with these different kinds of technology. In fact, somebody said, this is not my quote, but I wish it were, technology is the air they breathe. And even the ones who don't have it, and we all have to admit that there's inequality in the world, and there are some people who don't have all the technology yet, they are aspirational for it. They know it exists, they want to have it. And they will have it very soon because the prices drop so quickly. And although some of our kids today look different, and I don't know if these are kids from Colorado, but you may have seen, probably from Boulder, right? And some people in the world, some young people take the technology integration, this whole idea of technology integration, a little further than others. And I thought that guy was unique until I searched on the internet and found it's in more than one place. He's not the only person. Okay. But most of our kids, and I was in your schools yesterday, most of our kids on the outside look the same as they always have. But don't be deceived. On the inside, they are different. Right? We're afraid of the Borg. Our kids are becoming cyborgs in many ways, and they have the most powerful tools in history. And we'd better expect great things of them with those tools. We hugely underestimate what they can do. And therefore we get surprised when we hear the experiments, the kinds of things that the young people were telling us about. But that should be the norm. There's so much our kids could be doing to improve the world. We don't let them. We waste We waste the capabilities of our students. They asked yesterday, one of the things they said in this group of kids we were talking about who were elementary and middle and high school, more real-world projects like the ones that we saw before. That's what we want. It's great that we have schools that are doing project-based learning, that are doing real-world. Everybody has to be doing that. You have to be the model for the world in this. You can be the model of what public schools can accomplish in the world. Because in today's kids' lifetimes, the technology is going to become 1 trillion times more powerful. How do we get that? It doubles every year for 40 years. That's 1 trillion. Already you can have phones that look like jewelry. This exists. That's a cell phone. You can have contact lenses that have built-in technology so you can watch the Super Bowl right in your eyes. And if you think the kids are distracted today, wait till they have those contact lenses in their eyes. We can't have them sit in rows and look at us anymore. Things are going to be implanted in their bodies. This is already happening. So here's where we are. We have this brand new context. We have all this great technology. And sadly, most of our education in the world, and again, I'm not talking about here, I'm talking about the world, is not preparing kids to live in this new world. Most of our education is preparing kids for the past. Again, every country I go to. And worse, the worst part is that as this happens, a lot of us know it's happening. And we're doing things that we're not sure exactly are right anymore for a whole bunch of reasons that we can all talk about. But what we need to do is become great teachers, not just for today, but for the future. And that's what I hope you all want to do. We need to become futurecators. This is a term that I've coined that I'm going to use. I'm forming a Futurication Institute. I want us all to be great teachers for the future and to make our education into Futurication, focusing on the future in what we do. And that's what we heard this morning. Because let me talk a little bit about the goal of education. Also check the time. Okay. I don't believe, as a lot of people do in the world, maybe all of you in this room, I don't believe that the goal of education is learning. I don't. The word is even starting to bother me. Why? Because the goal of education is becoming. That's the goal of education. Becoming a good person. Becoming a competent person. Becoming an adaptable person in our new world who builds a better world. That's what we're trying to produce. We're not trying to produce learned people. We're trying to produce good, competent, flexible people who improve the world. This is a quote I'm fond of from President Franklin Delano Roosevelt, who I guess most of the people in this room remember. We cannot always build the future for our youth, but we can build the youth for our future. And that's what we're trying to do. So if learning is not the goal, what is it? Because we're obviously doing learning. Learning is a means. Learning is a means to becoming who we want to be and who we want our kids to be. That's why we do learning. We have to not confuse the means with the goal. Because there's an even better means of becoming than just learning. And that means is accomplishing. And that's what we saw when these people said, we're doing this project for this kid. We're accomplishing something, and we're becoming better people. And in the process, we are learning a lot. And accomplishing is not the same as achieving. Achieving is getting high scores, and that's great. But that's not the same as accomplishing in the real world projects that make it a better world. So my sense, and I think it's your district's sense, is that we need to put more emphasis on becoming and accomplishing, and not so much on the kinds of learning that we've been measuring with the tests and all these things. And I know you've got some efforts in place along those lines. To bridge that widening gap between what we teach our kids and test our kids on today and what they really need for the future, we need to futurecate.